Freddy and Jason were a sort of horror crossover that isn't seen much in this genre. We all love the rare horror crossovers like the two of them and Alien vs. Predator. Given how successful they've been, interest in horror crossovers is spiking. But there are many horror movie villains and anti-heroes that Redditors desperately want to see either team up or go against each other. In this video, let's discuss the top 10. First off, Leprechaun vs. Chucky. Crossovers have become quite a big deal in Hollywood, and thanks to the recent successes of non-horror movies such as the MCU, the horror genre is also looking to dip its toe in the pool. And to be honest, even if it isn't, the fans are pretty excited to see some of their favorite characters fight each other or even collaborate. And Leprechaun vs. Chucky is something they all really want to see. You know that size doesn't matter, right? Especially when it comes to these two tiny killers. So a crossover between them would make perfect sense. A user on Reddit writes that if we do get these two pint-sized villains in one movie against each other, we're gonna see them tussle under tables, inside cabinets, and down ink drains. Wouldn't that take the terror level to a whole different level? Oh, and let's not forget that both of them are well known for their witty one-liners and usage of humor throughout both franchises. Yeah, you'll probably become the butt of the joke just before you die, but it'd be worth it getting killed by one of them, right? Anyway, their crossover would make all the more sense because they're both almost the same size and would be able to fight each other effectively without too much effort. No doubt, it'd be funny and very scary to watch these two tiny killers on the loose, wanting to kill each other, but it'd also be pretty entertaining. We now have Pinhead vs. Candyman. After Leprechaun vs. Chucky, we thought, why not bring two characters written by the same author and have them fight each other? Sure, in practice, a movie that involves the two of them might not make a lot of sense, but both have been horror icons for a very long time, so them being in the same movie wouldn't be too much of a stretch. Not just that, as we said, both villains were created by Clive Barker, which makes it all the more possible that the two could potentially even exist in the same universe. If we talk about ourselves, we wouldn't be so merciless to have both these terrifying maniacs in one universe to terrorize the humans. But if it's coming from the twisted mind of Barker, we won't put it past him. It'd be an amazing crossover because these two are very elegant speakers. You all must remember Pinhead has some iconic quotes that we use as references from time to time. One user points out that the film would contain many poetic quotes right before the two villains square off to see which of them comes out on top. To be honest, we'll pay to watch this one. Next up, Phantom of the Opera and The Mummy. These two classic monsters aren't appreciated as much as their contemporaries, even though in the movies both of them are immensely hot. Come on, Tumblr girls, do your thing and give them the appreciation they deserve. The Phantom and the Mummy aren't all that different from each other either. They're both capable of horrendous actions and are motivated by love. And like Jake Peralta from Brooklyn Nine-Nine has said, cool motive, still murder. We also stick by it. But it's going to be a pretty amazing movie to watch as they come up with their version of the definition of love and the fascinating contrast between them, even more so when they're not pitted against each other and have to work together. These two will be double the trouble for our heroes. More on this, Jekyll and Hyde vs. Saw. The movies that scared the pants off us when we were younger were the ones from the Saw franchise. And oh, that plot twist still gets us. John Kramer, Jigsaw from that franchise, has made a career out of playing psychological games of torture on many of his poor victims. But what if one such victim wasn't just one person, but actually two? Dr. Henry Jekyll and his sinister alter ego, Edward Hyde, would make for iconic victims of Jigsaw. Both the differing personalities will have to work together, and it'll either work against them or in their favor. Not just that, but a choice made by Hyde would have to be accepted by Jekyll and vice versa. This one will be just twisted enough to keep us hooked. Moving on, Freddy vs. Candyman. Candyman and Freddy have a similar source for their power in terms of their ability to kill others. One Redditor pointed out that both of them need people to believe in them, and with people's belief that conjures these villains, they become their worst nightmare. If these two had a crossover, that would pose double the trouble. Sure, the Candyman can only be summoned when people say his name 5 times, and Freddy needs people to know and fear him in order to manifest and then kill. But seeing them both compete with each other will bring twice the gore and fear. Now let's talk about American Psycho versus Hannibal Lecter. We can all agree that Patrick Bateman is one of the most terrifying characters out there, right? But imagine him being analyzed by someone like Hannibal Lecter. That's gonna make an interesting movie. And like one Reddit user says, we'll get to see the inner workings of Bateman's psyche and what made him the way he is. As a psychiatrist, when he's not eating people, Lecter would be perfect perfect to dive into Patrick's mind and find out what makes him tick. We just worry that the longer they spend together, the more they're going to want to kill each other. And who knows, the cannibal might end up killing the psycho and pair him with Chianti for his dinner. But despite everything, it's going to lead to a very interesting psychological thriller that'll bring more thought-provoking sophistication to the movie than most horror flicks. Following that, Carrie vs. Freddy. Freddy haunts the dreams of people but hasn't really faced any psychics yet, and that could change if he winds up haunting Carrie White's dreams. Given that the character's psychic powers are a part of her, and they're not something that can be taken away in a dream, Kruger's gonna find it pretty difficult to get past this, which will lead to some serious and explosive dream battle sequences. One user commented that Carrie might even be able to find a way to drag Freddy into the real world, and that's where she'd have the best advantage against the Dream Demon. And we better get this, because watching these two terrifying villains would be a dream come true for many horror fans. See what we did there? There's more. Frankenstein, Dracula, and Wolfman. We know that the Dark Universe didn't get off to a great start with The Mummy, but that doesn't mean that Universal can't explore more ideas and its other classic monster properties. We all know that Frankenstein, Dracula, and the Wolfman are some of the most iconic movie characters of all time, and that Universal owns rights to all three of them. What's surprising is that the three of them haven't come face to face with one another in decades, and if Universal manages to get these characters right, we're going to see some very exciting stories. Up next, Annabelle and Valak. The Conjuring franchise is one of the most successful modern horrors out there. And unlike some other movies of the genre, it is also making big bucks. That's because this universe doesn't rely on cheap scares or micro budgets. Both the Conjuring and Annabelle movies had real stories and real characters, which gave them their very well-earned sequels. Because these movies are all connected anyway, why not have all their terrifying characters meet with each other? Valak and Annabelle are both demons in the Conjuring movies who possess others. What's gonna happen if we get them on screen together? Utter chaos. Last but not the least, Jason vs. Leatherface. In case you didn't know, this crossover has actually happened in a comic series. But we movie geeks are less than fortunate because there is yet to be a movie with Jason Voorhees taking on Leatherface. And with the concept already in place, it's going to make sense for them to have a movie with these two killers. We know that both these monsters have a degree of sympathy attached to them and are also shockingly brutal when it comes to dealing with their victims. Very much like Freddy versus Jason, these two might also start by teaming up before it gets blown into smithereens and they get into each other's faces. One Redditor says that with the right people and execution, this could be a great movie with a Freddy vs. Jason action horror. Let's not forget that we'll also get to see a character movie about the two most sympathetic slashers. That's it from our side for today. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Which crossover are you excited to see the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to share and subscribe. See you at the next one.